Correct.
are you seeing that in your dealings with carriers and your records and stuff? Are you seeing a correlation between road safety and mental health? Is there any real connection that you're seeing there? Or I mean, I know we all need good mental health, but it's a both sides. So it's, it's you could have if you're angry, you're going to
Yeah.
drive more aggressively. But at the same time, if you kind of have this attitude, the whole world's against me, sometimes that's bad too. What are you seeing, just from a general standpoint, Randy?
Yeah, definitely. I don't want anybody to feel like the whole world's against them, even though, you may run into a lot of challenges. Maybe nobody wants to give you space. Maybe nobody seems to respect the size of the truck around and around them. So I don't want them to think like that because then again, if you do that, it can be perceived as that. So what I would say is definitely um, try to remain calm when you're on duty. Try to even if other people around you don't seem as friendly, don't fight that by returning the same kind of approach. If somebody is tailing you, perhaps if you can safely, maybe you move to the right to let them pass. If nobody's giving you space, like the truck drivers still have to be a little bit diligent, but don't be too harsh in the way they approach different situations. So you don't want to block somebody out. I'm seeing a lot of claims that I believe are avoidable if we were to just give a little bit of space sometimes to the other drivers who, they may not respect, they encroaching on you, but maybe, okay, you have the right of way, but it's not so much about proving if you have the right of way. If you can avoid a situation, you got to start thinking about, can I avoid a situation? Now, I'm not saying that you're not going to drive. And I'm not saying that when you're behind the wheel that you're going to just let everybody come in front of you. I understand you have to defend yourself to a certain degree, but be careful how much of a degree you do that because you can avoid certain situations. And then definitely, don't be on your phone and stuff like that because then behind the wheel, you just don't have time to react to situations. And because everybody is all over the place on the roads, it's a lot. I just think there's more congestion, there's more distraction. So as a truck driver, we almost have to compensate for that.
Yeah, well, we're
Now,
supposed to be trained extra, right? You're supposed to be the professional driver if you're that's what you're doing. So that means avoiding all situations. I know I used to have a terminal manager. Used to say you could be right and you could be dead right, which means you still might be right, but you may. And I've seen that. I don't know if you're seeing that. I'm seeing that on a lot of cameras and stuff, dash cam video, where people are actually in the wrong. They could have avoided it, but they're trying to prove they're right, and they're in an accident for no reason. And as you know, once you're in an accident, it doesn't matter. You're going to be stuck there for however many hours it takes to figure everything out, right? So it's yeah, there's a lot. So just what any a couple tips maybe for drivers. What should slow down, leave more time, trip plan. What are you thinking for relieving some stress?
yeah, definitely if you can trip plan. I know everybody says it, but if you can give yourself that time, maybe you'll feel less pressure when you're actually behind the wheel. So if you can, trip plan and give yourself enough room for error, for congestion, for whatever else you might run into, give yourself some breaks. If that's possible, that would be good. You don't want to be under a lot of pressure when you're behind the wheel. Not as a truck driver, there's just too much risk involved. So I'd say try not to, the job is already stressful as it is, from what I understand, because you have to deal with authority, you have to deal with shippers, load brokers, and so forth. So give yourself a little bit of time, some room for error, and also so you can also mentally deal with what you come across. So if I were to give some tips, first of all, try to be in a good frame of mind. If something is wrong, talk to people. All the companies I work with will always try to hear you out. We want to give you that support. We want you to feel good when you're behind the wheel, so that doesn't transfer when you're operating such a large vehicle. All eyes are on trucks, and it just seems like I don't know, maybe it's a more targeted business nowadays for lawyers. I got nothing against lawyers, I get it, but we don't want to be at the other end of that. Okay, so some tips would be manage your time well, and you know what? You're the commercial driver, so it's not worth it for you to be in an incident, even if you're not at fault, because at the end of the day, you probably stand more to lose than the other party, because You're getting paid to operate the truck. Every mile that you go down that road is important to you. So you want to keep it, you want to keep your profitability, to keep your paycheck. You want to ensure every mile that you cover is good, right? You don't want to get stopped for, so it's probably cheaper to do a pre-trip than it is to get pulled off the road and have to pay for a roadside repair. We know auto service is very costly. It costs less at your location or your repair shop than it does. So, you know, uh, like I said, manage your time, ensure your equipment's in good order. Don't lose any of your profit by running into, speeding violations, tickets. Manage. We can't change what's going on outside right now. There's anytime you turn on the news or the radio, there's a lot of politics. Don't worry about that, but manage the economy that you guys have within your own company. So avoid violations, avoid costly roadside repairs. Worse, you don't want to be paying deductibles. Everybody has a deductible in trucking, and they're getting higher and higher. And unfortunately, there's no reciprocal agreement with most of the states, which means that when you go into the US, you're almost paying a deductible in every state. And then we have to recover it. So even if you're not at fault, you're paying a deductible, unfortunately. I'm not the one that makes the rules. I'm just letting you know. So there's no fun, there's nothing good about having an incident, an out of service, a ticket. It's just time. And right now, I hear a lot of feedback that the rates aren't as good as, everybody would like. So now's the time to consider your company and your own economy as much as you can. Your economy is you in that truck. So make every mile count. So my tip is just make every mile count. So even if you have to go a little bit slower, change lanes less, hang on the right lane if possible, and it's safe to do so. Perhaps that will end up leading to a more profitable day than if you run into some incidents by not being focused, speeding, being under the pressure by your hours of service, having any issues, and then worst case, having an incident. Because unfortunately, when you have an incident, we're almost guaranteed if you're at fault, I'll just use those words, we're most likely going to get a lawsuit. And even if you're not, we still might. And then even though the insurer may fight it, depending on the cost, they may try to settle that claim.